It always comes to this. More nice shit. Hello there guys, back again to another tattoo progress update today. Where I last left off, I showed off the tentacle that I did with Terry last week, the big red one. And I will show that off here in a bit. Had another session with Rick today, so wasn't sure. Once again, I'm at this point never sure if Rick's going to be at work or not, or if he's going to want to reschedule or anything like that. Because he's still recovering from his broken leg, his badly broken shin. And so, but he was quite adamant again that he wanted to work on me. And so we got up to a decent little session this time. We got more progress than last time. And so, because last time we just did this chunk in back here, the breathing hole thing, whatever you want to call that. And the texture back here at the crown of the head there. This week, Rick did this chunk up here. And next week, the plan is to come down and kind of do the rest of this face area again. Really hammered in these peachy, pinky orange tones again, because those are the hardest ones to get. It's been that way with any time that we've used like light orangey, pink colors. Anything peachy toned is a fight over black. I'll have people who ask me about skin tone cover-ups, how they work for covering black, to kind of do like a similar thing that you would do with laser, where you get the skin tone back from a tattoo. And from my experience with that, the really peachy pink orange tones are a fucking fight. Now if you want like a reddy orange, that's fine. Those colors go in pretty easily. But those skin tony colors, that fleshy tone, you can see it here, and we have some of it like even in the brain, like the original pinks that we used. They were super, super soft. And we did some of that in the eye as well. And those things are a bitch to work with. I imagine in general, but especially over black, they're very spotty. They don't go in super solid, whereas something like a red just sort of quickly overpowers the black. Even some of these greens have done that trick. Some of those softer pinky oranges, they don't like to go. And it's weird because actually yellow does really well too, and yellow's usually a pain. Terry has now told me several times that he normally hates saturating yellow color, but over black it goes in really, really easily for some reason. I think it could also be like a thing where the yellow is just very apparently in there over black, whereas sometimes on negative space it's a little harder to tell if it's saturated or solid, where it's not as different tonally from flesh color. So like if you're tattooing someone who's very pale, that yellow pigment, especially some of the softer yellows, it's not going to be as drastically different from like someone's normal skin tone as it will be from black, right? So if it's saturated, you can very easily see it over black, whereas on negative space, it's not as easy to tell, right? So believe it or not, and it's going to sound crazy, like I'm up my own ass with this because I'm the color on black influencer or whatever you want to call me, but some colors I think go in better and easier over black. And this isn't just my anecdotal observings on this. It's also coming firsthand from the artists saturating this color into me. And I've obviously seen it myself. Like Ashlyn, one of the artists here at the shop, has some purple on her from Terry, and it's not as purple as the purple on my rose here, or some of the purple on this sleeve, and it was over negative space. And she takes color really well. Now she's only had one pass on that though, so obviously if they touch that up and do a few passes on it, it can be as good or potentially brighter than, or more purple looking than this is. But just in saying that, I have an argument that this purple, which was done over black, is more purple than the purple that was done on her on negative space. So, and again, you could make that argument with this red too. Some of these greens and blues that we have are similarly, bright. Anyway, I'm going to show off that tentacle before I completely forget. It's all healed up. It's a little dry and flaky. I haven't moisturized it since this morning. I only moisturize once a day, especially once things are past a day or two. Lately, I've been only doing it once, and sometimes I forget later in the day to put more Aquaphor or anything on there. That is still what I use. People ask me all the time my healing method, even though I say all the time. I'll just reiterate that I use just a thin coat of Aquaphor twice a day, generally, and lately it's only been once a day. These tentacles, there's been a common theme. It's probably because they're interacting with the white on black, and it's some sort of a filtering process. People would imagine that putting color in over white on black would make it brighter, and what I'm finding to be the case is that it makes it lighter, so it's got more of a light look to it, but it's not making it truer to the color. So it does seem to filter out some of the color. Like if you look here, straight red on black versus red on white on black, you have a paler color but a lighter color. So, and interestingly enough, the color that has been done over white looks, you can see it easier in the dark than you can color that's been done over black. Whereas in direct sunlight, this sleeve, which has fully been done over black, looks crazy. This thing outside, you can see every little tone, every color that's been used in it very, very easily. Whereas this doesn't change as much in the sunlight. It's a very interesting thing. I don't know why that is the case, but if I'm laying in bed at night, I can easier see the color that's been done over white than I can the color that's been done over black. Whereas in daylight, it's not to say that this stuff is invisible in the dark. It's just there is a difference, right? So if I were to turn the lights off right now, this would be more visible than this, even though, this is very contrast heavy at this point. It's hard to describe without actually seeing it, but it's something that I find kind of interesting. And I don't know what that is. There's some things that aren't explainable without seeing them. I find it's like, sorry, I'm fucking with this fucking camera. Yeah, so just a lived anecdote. The stuff that goes in over white, it's brighter for some reason. I don't know why. In the dark. But ordinarily, it's not. It's really hard to explain. Anyway, I'm going to move on from that because it's probably only interesting to me, but it is something that I felt was an interesting thing that not a lot of people are ever going to encounter. Now, we've done 65 sessions on this sleeve, and it's looking cooler all the time, and I'm happy with how it's coming out, and Christ knows it's been a long road. We've had more than a year's worth of sessions on this if you were going back to back, and I think it's been closer to a year and a half because there's been some weeks off, right? And I normally talk shit about why tattooers don't do this work and how it's easier to do than people think it is, and I don't know why there aren't more artists willing to take this on, and I've put a lot of the blame on the artist. And I will continue to, by the way. There are a lot of artists that have their heads up their asses, and I'm never going to walk away from that point. I think that this stuff is doable, and if you can saturate color, you can do it. I'm never going to walk away from that hill, but I have had many people inquire at the shop here to do projects similar to this one, or any project over black. Like, I've had all kinds of them, and it's no wonder why, right? We're doing this all the time on me, and we've taken on quite a few of these, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. So I find there's a wide range in people's patience, and in this, as a tattooer, you're only going to be as good as your dance partner to some degree. There are a lot of people who want these projects, but the moment you tell them like what they're actually in for, they'll reply with something like, "Oh, well, I got to check my work schedule, look into some things." But I don't think that most people are really they're really open to the idea of what it means to take on a project like this, and so I can see why an artist would be apprehensive to approach a project like this as well, and maybe just find it easier to tell you that it won't work, or that it's impossible or something. Anything to get you off the path of this, because it's so easy to imagine someone getting to, say, 4 or 5 sessions in on something as a client and just abandoning it. And no artist wants unfinished work out there. Rick has a million unfinished projects out there, and it's no wonder why with how he works, right? But Terry, even, he's very, very fast. He's a quick artist, and you tell someone it could take between 5 and 10 sessions, which is more than fucking reasonable for this, and like, that's a lot for them, right? Like that, and I'm not saying it's nothing, but I don't think it's much, right? But they may get to a place with it where they're 3 or 4 sessions in and they go, "Oh, this isn't working. It's costing me a lot of money. I don't know if I want to keep doing this." And, you know, it's usually the guys with blackout sleeves that they probably already made mistakes in their life, or they rushed the gun with tattoos or something. You know, a lot of times blackouts are associated with bad tattoos. It's just a fact of the matter. It's not always the case, and in my case, it wasn't really the case for most of my work. Didn't need to be blacked out. So I'm not going to make this blanket statement that it's always the case, but usually there's something in a blackout sleeve that wasn't very good, especially if someone's just blacking out one arm. It's usually something they did when they were young and they want a fresh start. So it's like, to me, if you've already got a sleeve that you want to cover, and this is like, you should have learned the lesson the first time that patience is a virtue, and when you rush in, things don't go that well, right? But most times when you're talking to these guys about cover-ups over black, you tell them what it's actually going to look like, and then you never hear from them again. Now, like I said, we do have a few people in here that are going through with it, and they're great, but I have had dozens of inquiries for projects like this, and I'm never going to lie to someone. I'm not that guy. It's the same thing when I start laser. I tell people what is realistic. I do laser at the shop here, and I'm not going to just sell someone snake oil and tell them, "Yeah, you come in for 1 session and the tattoo's going to be gone." I never fucking tell someone that. I'll never say it. So we do our due diligence to make sure people are aware of the fact that, you know, you could be coming to us for a while, you know, and depending on what it is, it could be more sessions than others. But it's never going to be one. It will never be one, especially if you want us to black out your tattoo from scratch. Like, you're in with us for a while. Expect to put a year into this thing. Expect to put 4 or 5 sessions into something small, or 10 sessions into something large. My original rose sleeve took 10 sessions. I had the blackout already. So if you have to do the blackout first, then expect to do, 15 or 20 sessions. That's a fucking small amount to pay for a good arm, if you ask me. And someone will say, "Yeah, that's easy for you to say, Remy. You work in the shop." I didn't work in the shop. I got tattooed as much or more when I was a cook. You go back and watch my video, How I Pay for My Tattoos, and I was getting tattooed between 2 to 5 times a week for most of my original bodysuit and some of the second bodysuit. So you can make any kind of excuse you want for why this isn't an option for you, or you can, you can make it happen. That's up to you. I can't tell you how you do that. I can only tell you how long this takes and be honest about it, right? It's not going to happen overnight, and nothing cool will, right? You can say you want to do a different sleeve than this. That's fine. You can say this is fucking stupid because it's just roses. You can say whatever you want. I don't give a fuck about any of that. I can tell you what it will look like in reality. And even Anthony Bennett is doing these projects now, and they're not one pass either, right? He's doing big sessions, and he's doing big, bold images that they don't take as long to do. They don't get bogged down in details. And this is not me slagging him either. He's got a cool art style. Similar to my good friend Lee. He does the big, bold tattoos with not a whole lot of detail. And he can give you a sleeve in a few sessions. But he can't give you a color on black sleeve in a few sessions. He can't give you a white on black sleeve in a few sessions. That's going to be more than that, right? And so in this instant gratification landscape that I find tattooing is in, it's counterintuitive to the artist to take these projects on a lot of the time. So this is me saying I do get on a level where some artists are coming from not taking on these projects, because a lot of people aren't committed enough to get there. So, and I'm not saying everything needs to be this fucking 100 sessions this sleeve is going to be. It's going to be worth it in the end for me. But it may not be worth that to anyone or to everyone. So, it is what it is. I see both sides of it more and more as time goes on. And as the guy booking these projects and the guy going through them himself, it's like, you know what? Sometimes people will slag me and say, "Oh, Remy, you take an awful lot of credit for another person's work." It's like, Rick is giving me the credit for this. He says to me today, I could not make it through this on a regular client. Like, a regular client would have flaked off a long time ago. It's the same thing even with this. Like, Terry's not doing these every fucking day, guys. I'll tell you that right now. And I'm not taking all the credit. These guys are great guys. I love my guys. I'm not going to world famous artists. I'm not fucking traveling to try and find a better deal, though. I'm not trying to find the guy who can do this for me in one session. I'm working with these guys on the ground floor. We've been on the ground floor the whole time together. We're making this happen as a team. And someone can come and say, "You're not doing anything. You're just sitting there." Oh, yeah? Well, how many fucking other guys are just sitting there through 65 sessions on this sleeve? Let me tell you, there are none. And that's me as a booker telling you this. That's me as the guy who's dealing with these inquiries, who's talking to people about these ideas every fucking day, right? It's very hard to find someone that's going to be committed enough to get through a project like this. So this is the one thing where I kind of get it. I kind of get it more and more. It's hard enough to get someone to book in 4 or 5 sessions for a regular fucking sleeve. And that's typical for a regular sleeve if you're doing full day sessions, And when you tell them double or triple that number, you rarely hear from them again. So it's part of why you don't see things like this very often. And it's going to be a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, because they're going to be like, "Oh, yeah, Remy, you think you're better than everyone. You can sit more." It's like, no, I'm telling you reality. I'm not telling you what I think. I'm telling you what I see. I'm telling you what is happening and why it's happening. Most people don't have the money or the time or the dedication or some mixture of the three, and so these things don't happen. It's not... And also, like, I don't know that I could walk into a shop today and have this project happen either. I've known Rick for forever, right? That's part of how you get into these things. A lot of times the big elaborate projects that happen, they're like, you've known the artist for a long time type deal. It's going to be very rare that you can walk into a place and tell them what I've told you and they're just going to do it. So there's all kinds of reasons why these kinds of projects don't happen often. And some of them are on the tattooer and some of them are on the client. It's more of a 50-50 than I once thought it was. I used to think it was all just the tattooers being in denial, but now having done this and shown this to the world and getting these requests at our door and then seeing how flaky the clients are about it, I understand that it's 50-50 in this thing, and sometimes it's more the client that sucks than it is the artist. So, and we all know, if you're watching this channel, I don't defend lazy tattooers, so this is an exception, just take it from someone on both sides of this issue, as a client and as the shop manager here booking these projects. It takes two to tango. And you're not getting any cool projects done on a shitty client. It just doesn't happen. Anyway, I'll be barking at you guys here again in a few days. Terry and I have got something a little different this week. We're going to be doing a little tentacle and a little more work on the eye. So, yeah, take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.